I want you to imagine you just made your first $1 million.
I'm talking about this.
You can buy your dream car, your dream house, and you can do everything that you have ever wanted. Seems like a good life, doesn't it? Well, I did this, and I did it all by just 23 years old. I want to share with you how I made my very first $1 million 3 short years ago. Starting out, I wasn't perfect. I didn't grow up with money. I got kicked out of high school, and I went to court at 15 years old. So when I say you can do it too, I really mean it. In 2017, I got kicked out of high school for good. They expelled me, and my parents saved up enough money to barely put me into private school. My current situation was doing way more harm than good. I was surrounded by lowlifes, people that were bad influences, and that were changing me for the worst right after I got kicked out of school. Shift from being around druggies and low-income kids to being around these kids who would shit their pants if they weren't surgeons was a complete game changer. Everyone around me was striving for greatness, and I was just trying to graduate. I turned to my family and analyzed my situation and realized we had no big plays that I could just kind of latch onto after high school. Realizing that, fear drove me way more than any motivation ever could have. I was truly hungry at this point. So the summer going into my senior year of high school, I stumbled across this business called dropshipping, an amazing business model that allows you to sell products that you don't even own. So let's say you have candy bars for $1, okay? I find someone who will pay $2. So I say, hey, give me that $2, I'll give you the candy bars tomorrow. I go ahead and buy the candy bars from you for $1, and I make the profit. I make the $1 in between. It is as simple as that. The only issue was I only had $42, so I had to get a little bit creative with my marketing. I found a way to pay Instagram pages money to promote your product on their page. The overall goal was to have their audience love the product I was selling so much that they would go ahead and buy the product from me. I found this little anchor bracelet on Instagram, and I decided to sell it. I built out the worst Shopify store. I found some horrible photos from AliExpress, and I found an Instagram page that agreed to promote the product for $10. The only issue was I needed that Shopify store, and that was $30. I also needed a domain, and that was $5, leaving me with a little over $7 to spend on marketing. So I offered the page $7, and surprisingly, he accepted it. The post went up the next day, and I got a sale, and then another one, followed by over 50 more sales. This very moment in my life where in my head everything was validated and I knew this would work, this fueled me inside, and no one could stop me at this point because I saw that it worked with my own eyes. Now at this point, I thought it was just going to be a straight rocket ship to success. I was going to be a multi-millionaire in like 6 months. That wasn't the case at all. This store eventually crumbled. I lost like all of my money, and so for the next 2 years, I kept trying dropshipping, trying to strike gold again until one day, eventually, it kind of happened. In 2019, one of my stores actually went to $100,000 per month in sales. This was it. I was gonna make my first $1 million with this store. So knowing that, I started to travel more, I started to buy more shit, and just overall live like I had already made it. But then nothing seemed to be sticking. All these businesses were starting out good, and then they just failed eventually. After this one though, I realized what the issue was. I kept taking my foot way off of the gas before I had even fully laid the foundation of this business. And that was the real issue that the world just kept trying to teach me until eventually one day I caught on. And when I realized that, stuff really started to click. I launched a jewelry business just to fund my life expenses while I plotted my next move. And then 2020 rolled around and shit got difficult. I wasn't able to get my products in from China into the US, and it was tough. The jewelry business I had fell apart because I couldn't get customers their orders. So at this point, I was literally left twiddling my thumbs for around 2 months, just trying to figure out what I could possibly do to keep making progress. That was all until one single day, and I will never forget this. I accidentally stumbled across a gold mine. I was scrolling on Flippa, which is where companies go to list their e-commerce stores if they want to sell them. And this one particular store had done $50,000 in sales, only spending $5,000 in ads, which if you know paid ads, that sounds unheard of. It seemed way too good to be true. So I looked into it, and sure enough, the numbers were legit. I didn't have money, so I couldn't buy their company. Instead, I just made my own Shopify store, found their Facebook ads, and then made some similar, and I had a business. Now, that first day, I got a total of 0 sales. I generated no money, and I spent $50 on ads. So I gave it another day, I let it spend, and I generated $600 that day, only spending a total of $100 on this product. So at this point, I felt like a baller. I called up my family members and said, yo, quit your jobs, I'm rich. Definitely kidding, I was far from it, but I did keep up with this store, kept at $500 to $1,000 every single day for the first 2 weeks, and then after those 2 weeks, shit got crazy. By the end of month 1, I had done over 200 grand in sales, profiting over $100,000. This was a strange moment in my life, very strange. I had customers that were loving the product so much to where they came back, and some spent upwards of 6 figures by the end of the store, and I was making way more money than I knew what to do with. Having 100 grand in the bank felt absolutely surreal, especially knowing that the customers love your product. It felt amazing for a second, but then I had to get back into the trenches and build the business because product cost was only $30. Shipping cost was $70 per unit. That's a shit ton. That shouldn't fly. So learning from my past mistakes, which were blowing the money and acting like I was a baller when stuff was just getting started, I spent that whole 100 grand pretty much on inventory to drop my product costs and fulfill my customers' orders way faster. Now my $100 cost per product went down to $30 and 3 to 5 day shipping. So competition couldn't really compete at this point. That was an instant 20% profit increase per unit. And at the end of that month, I ended up generating $320,000 in sales, profiting around $200,000 straight cash. Now, at this point, I had more than enough money to keep investing into inventory and also some other money on the side to kind of dick around and do whatever I wanted. So I bought my very first fancy car. I bought a Mercedes C43 AMG, and this was an insane time in my life again. I was this kid who less than a year ago, I almost quit dropshipping. Like, just being honest with you, I almost quit and got a job and lived a very boring life. And I'm very grateful that I didn't do that. I love the meme where this guy's mining for diamonds. He turns around right before he's about to strike absolute gold, where he's gonna find tons of diamonds. He just turns around and gives up. Sometimes your pot of gold is right over the horizon, but you just can't see it yet because it's over the horizon. You just have to trust your gut and keep going, and I did exactly that. Sales started to trickle down for that whole year until finally I closed down Thermo Health. That was the end of that company. I sold thermometers to businesses for COVID. Selling to businesses like Chick-fil-A, government facilities, banks, you name it. That's all really cool. I'm now a multimillionaire. Life is very good for me, but how can you make $1 million now? Well, here's what I would do if I were starting from ground zero today. You can start dropshipping with less than $50, and I'm using a very simple strategy to grow our dropshipping businesses, literally start them and make them profitable pretty quickly, and it's not too complex, and you can use the exact system right now. Whether you're gonna do paid ads or organic, TikTok is the way to get going. Finding a winning product, that is the tough part if I'm being completely honest. I personally use the TikTok For You page. I set up a brand new TikTok account, scroll for a day or two, I engage in any content related to e-com or dropshipping products, and after a day or two, the whole account will show you nothing but that on the For You page. Then all you have to do is just pick one of those products that you see throughout the next few days, pick one, build out a Shopify store, and launch your crazy marketing scheme to make all the big bucks. This is a simple structure. I know it's not crazy in depth, but it's how you can make $1,000 a day, $10,000 a day. In the last 30 days, we did this exact strategy and generated quite a bit of money with some stores. So if you want to see more content on how we did that, just drop a comment below.